The cold air hits my face, sharp and unfamiliar, like a slap. My hand trembles as I push the heavy oak door, our door, open. It creaks, a sound I don't remember. The scent inside is wrong. Vanilla and something cloyingly sweet, not the lavender and old books I love. And then I see him. Mark, my Mark. He's standing by the fireplace, arm draped around a woman I've never seen. She's laughing, head tilted back, hand resting on his chest, my chest, the place where my head used to rest. My breath catches, a raw, jagged thing. They turn. Mark's smile freezes, crumbles. The woman, she just stares, her eyes widening, recognition dawning, in a way that makes my stomach clench with a strange, cold premonition. If you've ever felt the world tilt so violently you didn't know which way was up, tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me bring these stories to light more than you can imagine. Just weeks ago, or was it months? Time is a blur, a smeared watercolor painting since the accident. Weeks ago, this house was ours. Filled with shared dreams whispered in the dark, the scent of my Earl Grey tea in the mornings, Mark's off-key humming as he made breakfast. We were happy, or so I thought. We were planning a trip to Italy, a second honeymoon after 10 years. 10 years of building a life, a home. I built my company from the ground up, fueled by lukewarm coffee and sheer nerve. Mark was my rock, or so I believed. The one who celebrated every win, who held me through every fear. His laughter was the soundtrack to my life, his touch, my anchor. The doctor said it was a miracle I woke up from the coma. A head-on collision, a driver who ran a red light. Weeks of darkness, of silence. And when I finally surfaced, gasping for air, for life, the first name on my lips was his. Mark. The first few days after waking were a disorienting fog. The hospital lights were too bright, the silence of my room too loud. Mark visited, of course, but something was off. His smiles didn't quite reach his eyes. His hugs felt hesitant, almost perfunctory. He'd talk about practical things, insurance, my recovery timeline. He'd blame it on stress, on the shock of almost losing me. I wanted to believe him. I clung to that belief like a drowning woman to a piece of driftwood. He told me the doctors advised minimal stress, so he'd handle things at home, at the company. I was too weak to argue, too desperate to see the cracks already splintering our foundation. He even said he'd moved into the guest room to let me recover peacefully when I got home. Liar. The day I was discharged, Mark was supposed to pick me up. He called, his voice strained. A last-minute crisis at his work, he said. He'd sent a car, a sterile, anonymous car. My own home felt alien the moment I stepped inside. It was too clean, too impersonal. My favorite throw was gone from the sofa. My collection of mismatched teacups vanished from the kitchen shelf. Little things. Tiny, screaming alarm bells. I found a framed photo on the bedside table in the guest room, where he was supposedly sleeping. It was of him and her. The woman now standing by my fireplace. They were on a beach, laughing, looking far too comfortable, far too married. The date stamp on the digital frame was from 3 weeks ago, when I was still lying in a hospital bed, fighting for my life. And now, here she is, real, solid, in my living room, wearing a silk robe that looks suspiciously like one I'd been eyeing online. Mark finally speaks, his voice a strangled whisper. Anna, you're home. Home. The word is a mockery. The woman looks from me to Mark, then back to me. Her perfectly lipsticked mouth falls open. A small, choked sound escapes her. Oh my God, she breathes, her hand flying to her mouth. You're Anna. Then, her eyes widen further, a different kind of shock flooding her face, one that has nothing to do with a resurrected wife. Wait, Anna Sterling? The Anna Sterling? I just stare at her, my mind struggling to connect the dots. She takes a hesitant step forward, her eyes fixed on me with an almost reverent horror. She's my CEO. The world tilts again. My CEO, this woman, this stranger intertwined with my husband, works for me. The absurdity of it is a punch to the gut. Mark looks like he's about to throw up. Good. She's your what? I manage, my voice raspy. The woman. Sarah. I'd later learn her name is Sarah. Nods, still looking utterly polyaxed. Sarah Jenkins. I'm in the marketing department. I started 2 months ago. Mr. Sterling, Mark, he interviewed me. Interviewed by my husband. For my company. While I was in a coma, and then he married her. The pieces click into place with horrifying speed. This wasn't just an affair. This was an opportunistic takeover. Of my life. My home. My company. My husband. A cold rage, clear and sharp, begins to cut through the fog of grief and confusion. It's a familiar feeling, this clarity. It's the same focus that helped me build an empire from scratch. Mark finally finds his voice, or a pathetic version of it. Anna, I can explain. Can you, Mark? I ask, my voice dangerously quiet. Can you explain how you married another woman while I was fighting for my life? Is there a manual for that? A special grieving husband's loophole monthly I'm not aware of? My dry humor, a defense mechanism, surfaces even now. Sarah shrinks back. He told me you were gone, that it was a tragedy, but you weren't coming back, he said the doctors. The doctors said I was in a coma, Mark, not dead. I snap, my gaze locking onto him. He flinches. There's a rather significant legal and moral difference. The realization hits me. He didn't just move on. He tried to erase me. He must have. How else could he remarry? Forgery? A fraudulent declaration? The depth of his betrayal is a chasm, dark and terrifying, but beneath the terror, something else is stirring. A fight. He picked the wrong woman to try and bury. The days that follow are a blur of lawyers and locked doors. Mark, it turns out, had indeed tried to have me declared legally dead. He'd used my prolonged coma, bribed a shady doctor for a grim prognosis, and fast-tracked a process with a sympathetic or perhaps equally corrupt small-town judge. He'd married Sarah with shocking speed. He'd moved her into my house. He'd even started trying to access my personal accounts, my company shares, arguing that as my bereaved widower, he was the rightful heir. The audacity is breathtaking. My lawyer, a sharp-tongued woman named Evelyn, whose heels are as pointed as her arguments, is aghast, and frankly, a little thrilled by the sheer gall of it all. This is going to be messy, Anna, she warns, but it's also monumentally stupid on his part. He's left a trail of breadcrumbs a blind man could follow. Sarah, meanwhile, is a wreck. She calls me, her voice trembling. I didn't know, Miss Sterling, I swear. He told me, he painted such a tragic picture. He said you had no family, that he was all alone. And you believed him? I ask, my voice flat. He was charming. He was persuasive. And I was new in town. I was lonely. A pause. And he offered me a promotion, head of marketing, if things went well. Of course he did. My position, my company, dangled like a carrot. Your marriage to him is null and void, Sarah. You realize that, don't you? Evelyn had already confirmed it. My reemergence, very much alive, invalidated everything. Yes, he's not who I thought he was. No, I imagine not, I say, a bitter taste in my mouth. I had thought I knew him too. The hardest part is walking through my own company, the place I poured my soul into. Whispers follow me, sympathetic glances, curious stares. Mark had spun a tale here too, of my tragic, irreversible condition. He'd been positioning himself to take over, installing loyalists, trying to gain control of the board. My return is a bomb dropped in the middle of his carefully laid plans. The crisis deepens when Mark, backed into a corner, starts to fight dirty. He tries to freeze my assets, claiming I'm not mentally competent after the coma. He launches a smear campaign, leaking fabricated stories to gossip blogs about my supposed neglect of our marriage, my obsession with work. His desperation is ugly, pathetic. He even tries to bar me from my own office building, claiming he has power of attorney. The locks on my home are changed. I'm sleeping in a hotel, living out of a suitcase, while he and his illegal wife occupy my space, my life. It feels like I'm drowning. The legal fees are piling up, The emotional toll is immense. There are days I just want to curl up and disappear. Let him have it all. The company, the house, the hollow shell of a life he's trying to build on my ashes. It would be so much easier. But then I remember the fire in my belly that built Sterling Enterprises from nothing. I remember the promises I made to myself, to my employees who depend on this company. I remember the look on Mark's face when I walked in, that flicker of fear, and I remember Sarah's hushed, awed words, "She's my CEO." That's right. I am, and he seems to have forgotten what that means. The turning point comes during a late-night call with Evelyn. I'm exhausted, staring out at the city lights from my sterile hotel room. "He's trying to bleed you dry, Anna," Evelyn says, her voice grim. "Delay tactics, frivolous motions. He knows he's lost the marriage, but he's trying to destroy your reputation and cripple you financially so he can still try to seize control of the company." "I know," I whisper. "So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let him?" A spark ignites in the darkness. No, I am not. I built an empire by being smarter, tougher, more resilient than anyone else. Mark is a con artist, but he's an amateur playing in a professional league, my league. "Evelyn," I say, my voice suddenly firm, "I need you to find out everything about Sarah Jenkins. Her contract, her performance reviews before Mark got his claws into her, everything. And I want a full forensic audit of Sterling Enterprises for the last 3 months. Every expense, every transfer, every email Mark sent from his company account." "Now you're talking," Evelyn says, a hint of excitement in her voice. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," I say, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face, "that my husband made a fatal error. He underestimated me, and he involved an employee, my employee, in his little scheme." I hang up and pull out my laptop. It's time to remind Mark and everyone else who Anna Sterling really is. I start making calls, to board members I trust, to loyal department heads, to old friends in high places. The armor I thought I'd shed clicks back into place piece by piece. This isn't just about getting my life back. This is about taking back my power and making him pay. The emergency board meeting is tense. The air in the conference room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Mark sits at one end of the long mahogany table, flanked by his newly hired, expensive-looking lawyer. He attempts an expression of wounded dignity, but his eyes betray his panic. I sit at the other end, flanked by Evelyn and 2 of my most loyal board members. Sarah Jenkins is not present. Yet. Mark's lawyer drones on about Mark's supposed concern for the company's stability during my unfortunate incapacitation, his voice smooth and insincere. He paints Mark as a grieving husband stepping up to protect my legacy. I almost laugh. When he's finished, I speak. My voice is calm, steady. "Thank you, Mr. Davies. A compelling piece of fiction. Now for the facts." I lay it all out. The fraudulent attempt to declare me dead, the illegal marriage, the attempts to seize my assets, the smear campaign. With each point backed by Evelyn's meticulously compiled evidence, Mark shrinks a little further in his chair. "Mr. Sterling," I say, my eyes locking onto his, "you seem to believe that my company, my life, was yours for the taking. You were mistaken." Then comes the moment I've been orchestrating. "I believe," I continue, my gaze sweeping the room, "that Mr. Sterling's actions were not just personal betrayals, but also a direct threat to this company. He attempted to misappropriate funds, to manipulate stock options, and to install unqualified personnel in key positions, all while I was indisposed." Evelyn places a stack of documents on the table. The forensic audit. It details Mark's clumsy attempts to siphon money, to award inflated contracts to his cronies, to access restricted company accounts. Mark's lawyer splutters. "These are baseless accusations." "Are they?" I raise an eyebrow. "Then perhaps our next witness can shed some light on the matter." The door opens, and Sarah Jenkins walks in. She looks pale but resolute. She avoids looking at Mark. "Ms. Jenkins," I say gently, "thank you for coming. Could you please tell the board about the offers Mr. Sterling made to you? Specifically, regarding your promotion and certain financial incentives he discussed if you were to help him secure control of, let's say, sensitive company data. Mark shoots to his feet. This is outrageous. She's a disgruntled employee. She's lying. Sarah flinches but holds her ground. She looks directly at the board members. Mr. Sterling, Mark, told me that with Anna, Miss Sterling, gone, he would be taking over. He said he needed people he could trust. He showed me how to access certain files, financial projections, shareholder information. He said if I helped him consolidate his position, I'd be fast-tracked to a VP role. He also asked me to sign some documents, backdated, that would give him access to accounts he shouldn't have had access to. He said it was just a formality. She then produces copies of emails from Mark, detailing his plans, his instructions to her. He'd been careless, arrogant, he'd put it in writing. Mark collapses back into his chair, his face ashen. His lawyer looks like he's swallowed a lemon. The board members are silent, their expressions ranging from shock to fury. The betrayal he thought he'd orchestrated so cleverly has just spectacularly imploded. He tried to use Sarah as a pawn. But he forgot one crucial thing. Sarah may have been naive, she may have been ambitious, but her ultimate loyalty, once the fog of his deception cleared, was to her career and her CEO. The woman who was very much alive, very much in charge, and very much capable of ending that career with a single word. Sarah chose survival. She chose me. He never saw it coming. He was so focused on my perceived weakness, he didn't see the trap closing in around him, a trap built from his own deceit and her ambition. The aftermath is swift and brutal, for Mark anyway. The board votes unanimously to remove him from any and all association with Sterling Enterprises. The evidence Sarah provides, combined with Evelyn's legal assault, not only annuls his sham marriage but also triggers a criminal investigation into fraud and embezzlement. His assets are frozen, for real this time. His reputation is in tatters. He loses everything: the house, which was always mine, his fabricated standing in the community, his freedom, eventually. Sarah Jenkins keeps her job, barely. She's demoted, watched closely, but she cooperates fully with the investigation. She chose the winning side, albeit late in the game. There's a kind of grim satisfaction in that. She's a survivor, in her own way. I can respect that, even if I can't fully trust her. I move back into my house. It takes weeks to scrub away the residue of Mark and Sarah to reclaim the space as my own. I repaint the walls, buy new furniture, fill it with the scent of lavender and old books once more. It's different now. I'm different. The company thrives. My return, my victory, becomes a sort of legend, a testament to resilience. I'm stronger, yes. Wiser, definitely. A little harder around the edges, perhaps. The trust I once gave freely is now earned, slowly and carefully. The experience has carved something out of me, leaving behind a core of steel. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I think about Mark, not with longing, but with a kind of detached pity. He had so much, and he threw it all away for a shortcut, for a fantasy built on lies. He thought he was burying me. He ended up burying himself. My name is Anna Sterling. And I am the CEO of my own life, once again. The view from the top, rebuilt on the ashes of betrayal, is surprisingly clear. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever had to reclaim what was yours against all odds, I'd love to hear your version. And subscribing? It truly helps bring more of these stories to life. Thanks for being here, with me, through all of it.